Anxiety and depression, mostly anxiety, is very common with hiatal hernia syndrome. So I wanted to address a way that this happens that is not the way I usually explain it. So it's an additional facet to why you may experiencing anxiety with your hiatal hernia syndrome. So that has to do with the chemical serotonin, which likely you've heard of. It's called the happy chemical, the chemical that stabilizes mood, so hence happy. And it's produced in your gut. 95% of it, I should say, is produced in your gut. So even though it's considered a brain chemical, it comes from your gut, hence the gut-brain connection that you may have heard of. But 95% of it is produced in your gut. So if you have a gut that's not happy, how does that affect your serotonin production? You need an amino acid called tryptophan in order to produce serotonin. Now there's some other things as well, like vitamin B6 and vitamin D3, omega-3 fatty acids like fish oils that you've heard of. So that's also in the equation, but I want to focus on the tryptophan, this amino acid, for the moment, because what happens when you have an unhealthy gut, your ability to synthesize serotonin, make serotonin from tryptophan, gets really compromised. And so what we find with patients with hiatal hernia syndrome is they don't have a healthy gut. All the pressure and inflammation, maybe history of constipation, history of a bad diet, sometimes diarrhea or IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, fatty liver, etc. All of these things have contributed to an imbalanced gut profile, which is not just making you feel uncomfortable in your gut, but it is affecting your ability to make serotonin, this beautiful mood stabilizer. So what can we do? Now, an integral part of our hiatal hernia program, because we're root cause, is to get to the reason why that's underlying your hiatal hernia syndrome. And much of that attention of ours goes to optimizing the function of your gut microbiome. That's 60 to 100 trillion organisms that reside in your colon. But it's really from from top down, bottom up, whatever you want to say, but it's the healthy colon with the microbiome, which is where the serotonin is produced from the tryptophan, but it's also a healthy small intestine, so you don't have SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, so that your stomach is not being compressed from all this inflammation. As I mentioned earlier, fatty liver, if you have it, is being addressed. So all of these things are very comprehensively addressed. But today I wanted to focus on this because I met a brand new patient yesterday, and she's been suffering from anxiety attacks, as she calls them, for 15 years. And she's still a young woman, and she has all the facets, pieces of hiatal hernia syndrome that makes sense. I mean, actually, heartburn, acid reflux happens for her simultaneously with the anxiety. So we see the connection, not the best diet historically, et cetera, et cetera. But what can we do? Now, here at the clinic, we have a very comprehensive program to systematically hit all of these areas to optimize gut function. Something you can do right away, however, to improve gut function and improve your ability to metabolize that wonderful serotonin, is to get on what we call a Mediterranean diet. So this is real whole food, no processed food, and that's a mouthful in itself. I mean, we could, and books have been written just on that topic. And so the processed food, the artificial chemicals, etc. I mean, what does it make up? I think 65% of the calories we consume, the average American, is of processed food, highly processed, hyper palatable foods that we then crave because they're so hyper palatable, and the chemicals in them make us want more and more, but they also are really destroying our gut, because our gut doesn't know what to do with these chemicals that are not natural. So going back to real food, and food, well, real food tends to have fiber in it if it's a plant, or a vegetable, a fruit, etc. Animal products, not so much, which is why we want this balance. Other foods that are high in tryptophan are eggs and chicken and salmon, so along with nuts and seeds. So a diet that is nicely balanced, this Mediterranean diet, which has lean, clean protein, also has nuts and wonderful olive oil and fresh fruit. Berries are amazing. Citrus is amazing. This balance is what we're looking for. So it is quite a mouthful to say real food, not processed, because that's gonna take you a little bit of work, but it is so worth it to do that. I'm gonna look at my notes for a second. In addition to that, fermented foods. So yogurt is in that category, kimchi, sauerkraut. So fermented foods are wonderful to create both probiotics, feed the probiotics, and be prebiotic foods for the gut flora. And they really help balance out your gut. No sugar, no artificial sweeteners. I don't put stevia or something like a manuka honey in that category. That's not artificial. It's not, honey's not sugar. Not talking about going crazy in that regard, but it is a whole food. And what else was on my list? Yeah, no artificial anything is what I wrote on my list. But that's a good rule of thumb. It's a real egg. It's a real walnut. It's a, that's what you want to go for. And I'm a little bit shaking my head because just prior to sitting down to do this video, we got this beautiful gift from someone, probably 15 different things for the holidays, and it was all food and crackers and this and that. And I kept picking things up going, nope, nope, no, it's not real food. And I mean, it's a beautiful gift, and obviously we're very appreciative because somebody worked very hard to create it. But it's not, there's no food in there as far as I'm concerned. So lovely, it's the thought that counts. But it is interesting how so much of what we're presented with in our environment is actually not food. So it's no wonder that your mood is suffering and your sleep is suffering, because you're not able to make 95% of your serotonin that's required from your gut, because your gut's not healthy. And associated with a unhealthy, imbalanced gut, what gets created is hiatal hernia syndrome. Just briefly, I did a webinar on hiatal hernia syndrome yesterday, and a woman, I was mentioning constipation as an association, and she said, how does a hiatal hernia cause constipation? And I was like, it's the reverse. It's the constipation that's creating not only the unhealthy microbiome or the unhealthy gut organisms, but all this inflammation and pressure, increased intra-abdominal pressure, that then leads to a hiatal hernia. So it's chicken or the egg. What is it that came first? This imbalanced gut is creating hiatal hernia syndrome, and it's one of the factors creating anxiety and depression. So if you're suffering with this, I know how miserable it can be. I don't want you to continue suffering. Please consider reaching out to us for a consultation. Attached to this video in the description will be a number of how to contact us. And it's easy. It's really not difficult. And you'll find that even though it's a change, we hold your hand through the changes. And then when you're really eating real food that your body understands as food, and it knows how to react to it as food, then wonderful things happen and you can feel so much better. And that's what I want for you.